Hello, and welcome back to another episode of the Habits and Humor podcast. My name is Susie B, and if you're new to the show, this is a show about how we use a story to teach a life lesson, and then we give you 3 takeaways that if the life lesson from today's story applies to you, you can take action and start doing today. I don't want you to come up with something that in a year from now, maybe you look back and maybe you made a little bit of progress. I want you to decide if this will make a difference for me right here, right now. What can I do today that moves the needle, that makes the change so that I can actually set myself up for success and make some real progress starting right now? The simpler the actions, the faster or the sooner we take the actions, the more likely we are to succeed. So if you're feeling the motivation from today's story, if you're feeling relatable to today's story, if you're feeling like it relates to you and it is something that you personally need a little bit more of in your life, take action. Get going, get moving, and do the dang thing. And of course, as we set it up in this show, we want you to work on habits, not just short-term changes that I'm going to do for a couple of weeks and then maybe it'll make a difference. I want you to stick to this stuff. 1, 2, 3 habits is the method that we use. The first is pick your focus. If today's story applies to you, that should be your focus. Today, we are talking about mental health. If mental health is something you need more of in your life, let that be your first part of the 1, 2, 3 habits system. 1 focus is your mental health. 2, step 2 is when you're going to combine your conscious and subconscious mind powers together by practicing this habit consistently for 2 months. You don't have to have it perfect, but as many of the days as you can over the next 2 months, make sure that you make this thing happen as often as you can. What is that thing? Number 3 daily habits. So today I'm going to give you 3 takeaways that will help you to improve your mental health. These habits are the 3 things that made the biggest difference for me when I suffered with postpartum depression after my 4th baby. It was a crazy, crazy experience, and it absolutely changed the way that I see the world. And I still practice these 3 habits today. I set these habits 4 years ago, and they're still working for me now. It's absolutely incredible. That's the power of habits. You work on something for a short period of time, and it serves you forever, for as long as you continue to make it part of your life. It's incredible. The power of habits is so amazing. And today I'm going to show you how habits brought me back to life. I say life conscious came to life because it brought me back to life. And life conscious is the philosophy behind the way that I form my habits. So I'm going to talk to you guys a little bit about that today and the experience that I had that brought this into reality for me. Usually on the show, we use funny and embarrassing stories that make you laugh and make you smile and keep the mood light. But today we're talking about a more serious topic. And so the stories won't be humorous, but they will be real. And the story is my experience with postpartum depression. I'm going to tell you how I found out that I had it and how long that I dealt with it, and then how quickly things changed, which is 3 simple daily habits. And then I'm going to teach you what my favorite 3 mental health habits are so that you can start practicing those in your life today. If your 1 pillar focus is mental health, if that's something that you're like, yes, I need more of that today, these 3 habits will help you accomplish that thing. All right, here we go. So back in 2017, I had my 4th baby, and I was so excited to be a mom again. He's the cutest baby. All of my other babies came out looking like my husband, but this one actually looked like me. So it was like a little pat on the back. I loved this baby. We had such a good connection, and it was so fun to be his mama. So we had a delightful connection. I loved knowing that this was my last baby. There's something special about the last one, and everything that you experience is it's just different on a different level. So I had this great connection with my baby and was just thrilled to be a new mom again. I love the baby phase. It's so fun. It's hard. I mean, it's not all rainbows and lollipops, but I mean, it was super, super fun. It's different than any of the other phases, right? If you have kids, you know what I'm talking about. That first 3 months is something. And so I'm loving on this baby, and we're having this, delightful, amazing time being a new mom again. But something had changed. There was something that was just different. I have always been a type A. I've always been very driven, very motivated, and I felt like I had lost my mojo. I didn't know if it was just that I was tired or if I was just, something up with my hormones or whatever. I just had a baby, So for the first few months, I kind of just dealt with it and was just like, well, it's fine. Like, this is just an adjustment period. It's fine. It's no big deal. About 6 months after I'd had the baby, I'm still feeling the same way. I can barely get up out of bed. And I mean, I have 4 kids that are all home. They're 4 little kids, all none of them are school age. So they're all at home. And my husband works outside of our home. So I obviously have to wake up and get out of bed and take care of people. But I just didn't feel like I had a purpose. I just didn't feel fulfilled by this anymore. For the past 9 years, or for the past 7 years before that, I'd had so much fulfillment. I loved being a mom, and I absolutely every day was just like, I mean, not every single day that you love every single minute of it. Let's be real. Some days are super hard, but I always felt that joy. I always felt that perpetual experience of knowing that I was supposed to be a mom. And I was so grateful to be the mom of my beautiful kids. But something this time just took the happy out of it. The things that used to bring me joy and fulfillment didn't anymore. And I started to become really worried about this. Like, what is going on here? Is this just the way that life is now? I was very angry. I wasn't sad, and I wasn't crying, and I wasn't any of those telltale signs of postpartum depression, but I was super angry. I'm a redhead and I'm a type A. And so I thought, well, maybe this is just how life is now. And I just have this super short temper. I was short with my husband. I was short with my other kids. And I constantly was in this battle with myself. Like, I don't want to be this person, but I don't have any other option. Like, this is just the way things are. I'm not choosing this way. It's just happening. So I got really, really frustrated by this. And I started to make some changes, and I started to focus on one thing at a time. I was like, all right, I need to focus on one thing at a time. So I sat down and I started to work on my physical health. I started running again, and I started doing all this stuff. And I was so burned out. I couldn't motivate myself to stick to anything for more than 2 days. I tried working on my finances. I tried working on my physical health. I tried firing back up my business, and I just couldn't stay motivated. And I was so frustrated by the fact that I was unmotivated because I never experienced this before. So I dealt with it for about a year, and my baby had just turned 1, and I'd gone on a vacation with my cousin. We went to Bear Lake, which is one of my favorite places. If you've never been to Bear Lake, or maybe I shouldn't tell you about it because it's like a little secret gem. Anyway, so I love Bear Lake, and I'm there with my cousin, and I'm telling her about this. And she's like, you've got postpartum depression. And I'm like, I do not. Like, I'm not sad, and I feel great with my baby. He and I are good. There's no separation anxiety or anything like that. And she's like, no, if there's something that has changed mentally after you had a baby, you have a chemical imbalance, and it's related to postpartum. She's like, you need to go see somebody about this. And here's where I learned lesson number 1. At this point, I had a totally false assumption that medication was a failure. Medication, if you were on medication, it's because you had given up and you hadn't tried all the other things that you could try. But over the 6-month period, I had tried all the other things I could try. Like, I had done the scripture reading, and I had done the working out, and I had tried all of those things, but I could not stick to anything. Like, I really seriously had a mental block there, and it was incredibly frustrating. And so a couple of weeks after this trip and after this conversation with her, I finally broke down, if you want to call it that, which is ridiculous. But at this point in my head, just so you know where I was at, I broke down and I gave in to go see a doctor. And they're like, well, yeah, that's definitely what you have. Why did you wait so long? And I'm like, well, I didn't want to be a quitter. I didn't want to give up. I didn't want to have to ask for help. Let's just stop right here. Oh my word. This is totally crazy that this is what my head thought at this point. Like, this is so bonkers to me that I thought of this as giving up. Getting help is not giving up, people. Getting help is the smartest thing you can do for yourself. If you're stuck in a place and you have tried on your own that you can't get out of, get someone who knows how to get you out of it. There is absolutely help for everything out there. Talk to somebody. Talk to a professional. Don't talk to your best friend that has no idea what's going on. Don't talk to your sister that's just going to tell you what you want to hear. Talk to a professional who can actually help you work through some things. I sat down, I talked to my husband about this, and I just said, well, you know, they want me to go on medication and and I was all stressed out about it. And he's like, if that's what you need, then do it. Like, it was so obvious to him. And I just was like, oh, okay, well, maybe the way that you say it makes sense. I don't know why he's the voice of reason, but he totally is the voice of reason. So I go in and I go back to the doctor, and I'm like, all right, I'm ready for this. And she's like, I'm going to give you medication, but I want you to do everything you can to improve your mental health. I'm like, okay, I've never really done that before. I've focused on physical health for years and years and years. I know how to nail that, but mental health, that's a whole other game. So I went home and I read through a couple of books, and I, as any type A person would do, I researched and I made myself a list. And previous years before that, I had created a habits program for my personal training clients for their physical health habits. And so it's a 60-day program that helps them to habitualize the process, or the things that they're working on each day, so that it's not only short-term change, but it's long-term change. So on the way home from this doctor's appointment, I was what I consider to be divinely inspired by my Heavenly Father to try my own programming on my mental health. So I sat down, I made my list, and I came up with my 10 habits that I was going to start with my mental health. 2 days in, you guys, I was doing 10 things a day, and I was burned out. 2 days. I couldn't handle 10 tasks for 2 days. I talked to myself and I was like, all right, is this hard because it's new, or is this hard because it's truly impossible at this point? And I came to the conclusion, I talked to myself, I said it in prayer, I worked through this mentally, and I came to the conclusion that 10 was just too much. So I cut it back to 5, and I tried 5 for 2 days. And that even was too much. Just so you know the place that I'm at this point. I've got 4 little kids at home. It's summer, and so they're all home all day. And I cannot handle getting up and doing 5 things that work on my mental health. I can get up and I can, do the things that must be done in order to keep my kids and my family alive. But to work on me, 5 things a day was too much to ask. So I cut it back to 3. I had read some research that talked about how powerful the number 3 is in your brain. And I was like, okay, my brain needs some 3. So I sat down and I wrote down the most important 3. Actually, they weren't even the most important 3 at that point. 1 was the easiest one. It was taking a multivitamin. I was not in a place where I could physically exercise, or I wasn't eating super nutritional. I was eating well, but I wasn't like super focused on my nutrition at this point. So I was like, I'm going to take a multivitamin. It's going to be 1 second. I can do this one thing because it literally takes 1 second per day. So I put some multivitamins on my nightstand first thing in the morning, boom, multivitamin. So that was my first habit, the easiest thing I could possibly think of that I knew would have a positive benefit. And the second one was listening to music. Talk about another super easy thing for me to do. And at this point, those Alexa Echo Dots were new and fancy. And so I bought one of those, and I would just tell it, like in the morning, I would tell it to play some upbeat music and get me out of bed and get me rolling. And when I didn't want to do things, if I had to do like dishes or laundry or stuff that I didn't want to do, I'd play really exciting, upbeat, fun music that I absolutely loved. I'd play my jams. I made a jams playlist, and I would listen to my favorite songs. Those would give me a little bit of energy and a little bit of joy, because music speaks to my soul. Figure out what speaks to your soul and let that be a habit in your life, because it makes a huge difference. And then my third habit was affirmations. And this was one that I'd heard about, but I'd never tried. And I thought kind of, I don't know, it sounds a little hippy dippy. But so I tried it, and I sat down and I wrote down 5 statements about myself. If you don't know what affirmations are, they're basically just statements that are true, or statements that you need to believe, that you want to believe to be true. So I sat down and I wrote down 5 things, and I would sit on my floor in my closet, and I would look at myself in the mirror, and I would say these 3 things, or these 5 things to myself. I'm sorry, I'm getting emotional here, but this was much more difficult than I expected it to be. To look at myself in the mirror and tell myself that I was beautiful, that I was living my purpose, that I was doing something of value, and that I was enough and content in my life as it was. I didn't believe any of that. So to look at myself in the mirror and say those things to me and feel so disconnected from those statements, the first few days, it was so tough. It makes me emotional to think about it, because it makes me sad that I was in such a dark place, and such a place where I felt so disconnected from myself. That's how I describe my symptoms, if you will, of postpartum depression. I just felt disconnected from me. I lost myself. I didn't lose the connection with my baby. I didn't feel sad. I didn't lose connection with my emotions. I lost me. And so I started these 3 habits. These were my 3 that I chose: the multivitamin, the affirmations, and the music. And over the first few weeks, it started to feel possible. It started to feel doable. And I started to get a little bit of my motivation back and my confidence back that, okay, even though I tried those 10 things and I couldn't do all 10, and even though I tried those 5 things and I couldn't do all 5, I can do 3. I can do this. And the power of that three, I'll tell you what that research is that when you're working on three things that are related to each other, they help each other happen. It's like a triangle. The triangle is the strongest shape. It's the most structurally sound shape in the universe because of the way that it is built on three sides. All three lean on each other and they use each other for the strength. So that's what I was doing with these habits, is when I would take that multivitamin, I would feel a little bit of boost in my morning, and it would encourage me to push play on that music. And as I was listening to that music, it would encourage me to look myself in the eyes and take care of business, do something for me. All of these habits took minutes a day or less, 1 minute a day of affirmations, 2 seconds to swallow that multivitamin, and then listening to music was going on in the background while I was doing the other things. But those three habits absolutely worked together. And over about a course of 3 weeks, it started to become habitual. It started to become part of my life. It no longer required so much time, so much energy, and so much effort. It started to get easier. And I got my mojo back. Got really motivated again. And I started to feel how big of a difference this can actually make. So I practiced these three habits over the period of 60 days, and I filled in my blueprint and I completed this project for my mental health. And when I got to the end of that project, I was like, that's amazing. I absolutely consider this to be me coming back to life. I felt like something had come back into my body that had been missing for 18 months. It was unbelievable. All of a sudden, the world was light again. I could see color again. I could feel again. I was happy again, doing the same things. That's the craziest thing. Nothing had changed. My situation had not changed. My routine, my surroundings had not changed. I was still in the same situation, doing the same things. But because my mental health was on focus, was a priority, I saw it all differently. I worked myself off of my medication during the 60-day period. So now I knew that it wasn't the medication that was making a difference. Do I believe there's a place for medication? Abso-freaking-lutely. Yes, I definitely do. But for me, I didn't want that to be my long-term solution. So I sort of worked myself down through a taper over that 60 days. And about week 6, I was off the medication. So my last 2 weeks, my last 2.5 weeks were very much just me working on my mental health with habits. I absolutely believe that I needed the medication to realign some chemicals that were off in my brain. And at this point, I felt I could get off the medication my doctor approved, and we moved on to the next piece. But when I finished that 60 days of those 3 healthy habits, those 3 mental health habits, everything changed. I got myself back. I got my joy back. I got my motivation back. It was unbelievable. And so from that point, that's what inspired me to write my book. That's what inspired me to start my business and help other people to do this thing. That's what is the driving force behind this series, or this season of the podcast, is the 1, 2, 3 habit system. I came to understand and use the 1, 2, 3 habit system in an incredible way. It was the simplest possible thing I could do for myself, and it made an unbelievable difference. I will forever be grateful for that doctor for giving me the advice to work on my mental health, for my cousin for telling me to get help, and for my husband for encouraging me to just do the thing that needed to be done. And then for the inspiration for my Lord and Savior to work on these things as habits, instead of just one thing here, one thing there, throwing spaghetti at the wall to see what sticks. I worked on these 3 things every single day, and it made all the difference. I loved this period of working on my mental health so much that I did it again. And at this time, I felt like I had enough mojo. I started another 60-day blueprint, but this time I did 10 habits just to see, what progress have we made? I couldn't do 10 2 months ago, but where are we now? And I absolutely could do it. All of a sudden, I got my motivation back. Like I said, I reconnected with myself, and I was at a whole different level now. 60 days made such a massive difference for me. So then I started a new 10 habits, and I worked through 10 mental health habits. And over the course of the next 2 months of those 10 health habits, I kept my 3. I kept my music, my multivitamin, and my affirmations, and added some more. I added prayer, I added scriptures, I added journaling, I added meditation, I added exercise, and one more. Can't think of what the last one was, but anyway, I added 7 other habits to my mental health journey. And the 3 that I have come to love the most over this period are the three that I'm going to share with you today. If mental health is something you struggle with, whether it be depression or anxiety or anything else, it doesn't have to have a name. Maybe it is related to postpartum, maybe it's not. If you are in a place mentally that you want more, that you want different, that you want out of, this might be a beautiful place for you to start. Try these 3 habits. These were the 3 that made the biggest difference for me that I still practice today. I love these 3 habits. Number 1 was affirmations. That seemed so wonky to me at the beginning, and it really was very, very difficult and very emotional at the beginning. Now, I love my affirmations. They are such a powerful piece to what I know to be true about myself, what I believe. And I will look in my mirror. I have 10 of them that are written on sticky notes on the side of my bathroom mirror now. And I will read those to myself out loud, looking at myself in the eyes, and say them to myself every single day. Every couple of months, I will switch them out and put in new ones that apply more to the situation that I'm currently in. Some of them I have kept. Some of them I've kept from 4 years ago, the same ones that I started with. But most of them have changed and shifted and grown into different ones that I need now for my current situation. I highly recommend this for you. If you are in a place where you struggle with connecting with yourself, if you struggle with your body image, if you struggle with anything about you and your connection with you, I highly recommend affirmations. It's simply statements that you say to yourself that are true about yourself. Whether you believe them or not does not matter. If you know that they are true deep down in your soul, or you want them to be true, then write them down and say them to yourself. It is unbelievable the shift that happens with your conscious and subconscious after doing these consistently. If you sit down and you say something to yourself in the mirror for a couple of days, it's probably going to feel wonky. It's probably going to feel silly because it might be a silly solution, a short-term solution. However, if you use the blueprint and if you focus on these things and do them every single day for 60 days, the blueprint is just basically a tracking system to make you continue through for 60 days. So you can just write it down on a piece of paper. You don't have to have anything fancy, but if you would like to learn more about this, let me know and I can certainly provide you with what you need. Anyway, so the affirmations are just things that will help you to connect with you. And when you're looking at yourself in a mirror and you can see your own eyes, it means so much more. So I highly recommend doing this in the mirror and saying these things to yourself every single day over the period of 2 months. 2 months consistently shows the research is where that's where the connection is made between your conscious and subconscious, which leads to those lasting long-term results. That's why I'm still doing my affirmations today. I don't have to think about it. I don't have to plan for it. It just happens. It's just set up for me and it's just part of my routine. The second mental health habit that I want to talk to you guys about today is meditation. This is one that I started. Oh, that was the 7th one. Maybe I already said it. I don't know. But this is one thing that I started doing back in that time and on my round 2 of mental health, and I love it. I actually started doing this in, my friend was teaching a yoga class at Cami, talking about you. And I went to Cami's yoga class, and at the end of her class, she would do I can't remember if it was 5 or 10 minute meditation. And the first time I went, I'm not going to lie, you guys, I was like, nope, this isn't for me. Like to just lay here on the floor and breathe for 10 minutes. I thought I was going to die. I just have a head that spins constantly. And I was like, okay, this isn't for me. But I kept going, and my friend and I, she encouraged me, and then and we kept going, and she would continue to work with me, and she was talking to me about this, and she was very patient with me. And over the course of a few weeks, I started to get it. I started to like, oh, okay, my head doesn't have to constantly be spinning. And what a relief it is when I actually get to just not think for a second. You guys have been there. You've done some menial task. You've done some silly thing that just clears your head for a minute and makes you not think. And you're like, oh, that's a nice little relief. That's what meditation is. It's just taking you out of your head for a minute so that you can think about nothing. And it's also creating a mind-body connection. And one of the fastest ways that you can do a meditation that creates that mind-body connection is a breathing meditation. So I'll walk you through what my breathing meditation is that I still do today. It's about 2, 3, 4, 5 minutes long, and it's incredibly simple. So what you do is you just lay down on the floor. I usually lay on a hard surface because it's good for your spine, but you can lay on your bed or wherever you're comfortable. And I lay down on the floor and I just hold my arms straight and my legs straight, and I just relax every muscle in my body. And I close my eyes and I just breathe. And I count my inhale. I inhale through my nose. Every time you inhale through your nose, your air is cleaner. Just quick tip for breathing there. So you inhale through your nose and you count in for 5, And then you exhale through your mouth like you're breathing through a straw. And count out for 8. So inhale 5, exhale 8. And what this does is it clears the bottom of your lungs. When you exhale longer than you inhale, you push out that air from the stale air that's been sitting in the very bottom of your lungs. Usually we only use about 60, 70% of our lung capacity. And so this forceful breathing forces that air all the way down from the bottom of your lungs and brings in brand new oxygen. Your whole lungs will fill up with brand new oxygen. You'll feel it. You'll feel the need to, the next inhale feels more important, feels more necessary after you have exhaled for 8. So inhale for 5, exhale for 8. Let's do 2 more just like that. Inhale, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Exhale, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Inhale, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Exhale, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I use this breathing technique all the time. If I'm stressed, if I'm angry, if I'm worried, if I just need a minute. And I always meditate right after I run so that my air is really fresh and clean anyway. Not always, but oftentimes those are the 2 habits that I couple together. So meditation, super easy. Another meditation that I do is called my happy place. And I'll, again, just lay on the floor and I'll close my eyes and I'll just take myself mentally to my happy place. I'll see all the details. I will be on the beach. It will be sunny and warm. I'm not getting a sunburn, but I am feeling the sun rays on my skin. I can feel the sand. I can hear the waves. I can hear the birds. It's beautiful in my mind. I know the details. I know what it smells like. I know what it feels like. I know what the temperature is. I encourage you to do this. Have a happy place for you that is super accessible in your mind. I see this picture often. And so when I am in stressful situations, I can go to my happy place. Sometimes I do this with my personal training clients. If we're holding a plank forever, or if we're doing a million push-ups, I'll say, go to your happy place, see your happy place. And then all of a sudden your mind is distracted and your body can do a little bit more than it was ready to do, or a little bit more than your mind maybe thought you could do. That's when mind over matter becomes very useful. So meditation, those are the 2 meditations I do, is the inhale for 5, exhale for 8, and the happy place visual. So that's habit number 2. Habit number 1 was affirmations. Write down some statements about yourself, say them to yourself in the mirror. Habit number 2 was meditation. Do it however you want, but those are 2 simple ways to start. And then habit number 3 is journaling. This is my therapy. I love journaling. I journal every day and I have several different ways that I do it, but not every single day. Let's go back to the habits thing. I have more on days than I have off days. It's more consistent in my life than it is inconsistent in my life. So I don't journal every single day, but it is absolutely a habit that I have. I don't have to think about it. If I'm feeling something, I immediately go to my journal. It's a very intuitive and very easy response for me now, subconscious response. And so I have this document on my computer. I don't like to write with my hand because it hurts. I get hand cramps easily. And so I type. So I get on my computer and I pull up my journal and I will just type. And sometimes, most times, I call it my brain dump and I just take everything out that I'm thinking about. Like I told you guys, I'm a type A and I'm always constantly spinning in my head. I just take all the ideas and I get them out. And then I'm free to think about whatever I want to think about the rest of the day. I journal first thing in the morning. I wake up early before my kids are awake or anything like that. And I just dump it. I dump it all out. And then sometimes throughout the day, I'll come back to my journal and do it several times a day. I don't need a prompt. I don't need anything fancy. I don't need certain things. It doesn't have to make sense. I never go back and reread it. Well, not very often anyway. I hardly ever go back and reread it. And most times it doesn't even make sense. It's mostly just getting things out of my head. And that's my current journaling. There are many different ways and many different kinds of journaling. So if this is appealing to you, let me know and we can do a whole session on how to journal and 10 different ways to do it. But for me, I do a journaling brain dump and I meditate and I do affirmations. Those are my 3 mental health habits that of the 10 that I chose on my mental health journey, those are the 3 that made the biggest difference for me. And I still use them today. I absolutely love those 3 mental health habits. So whatever situation you're in, wherever you're finding yourself, whatever mental health battle you're struggling with, know this, you're not alone. Getting help is not a bad idea. It is a great idea. And there are absolute things you can do for yourself starting today. Try Try a few things, just see, give it a week, give it a couple of days, give it an experience, and just let it see what it can do for you. I highly recommend that you pick 3 that speak to you and stick with them for 60 days. I am not kidding you when I say that 60-day period working on my 3 mental health habits brought me back to life. It brought me back to who I am and what I do. It absolutely was incredible. I had struggled for 18 months, and in 2 months, I came right back. 18 months of struggle, 2 months of solution. It was unbelievable. So if you are struggling with depression or any sort of mental health struggle right now, these 3 habits will help you. And if you need support, please reach out. I know how dark and difficult and lonely the mental health battle can be. Know that you can find me at Susie B Life on any social media platform. Email me, susiebelife@gmail.com. If you need some support, please reach out. I will absolutely be happy to talk more about this stuff with you because it made such a big difference for me. I know how powerful these simple wellness and mental health habits can be because they turned everything around for me. And since that time, I've helped lots of other people do it as well. Have a wonderful week. Take care of yourselves. Learn who you are, learn what means something to you, and make those things happen consistently on a daily basis until they become habits. Your mind is amazing, and you have every single thing you need to succeed. You already have a conscious, you already have a subconscious, and you already have a body. When you use those 3 incredible things to change your life, you will realize how powerful you are. You are indeed limitlessly powerful.